So this is just a quick video of a very first test that I did with the mounting of my Ronin MX gimbal with my Panasonic Lumix S5 camera to my DJI M600 drone. So here I am folding up the arms, getting ready to deploy everything for the first flight. This particular day it was quite cold and it was a little windier than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be this windy, but when I got outside, I noticed that it was windier than I had anticipated, but I still felt relatively comfortable with doing a test flight. I was just flying around at the end of the driveway at my house, so I wasn't planning on going far. But here I am getting ready to put the batteries in the drone. The M600 drone has 6 batteries, and they all have to be functioning properly, of course, and charged to within a couple of percent of each other. And in this particular situation, I was right on the fringe of where that battery charge balance is. I had only used a couple of percent of battery when I had it in my office to do some calibration testing and some testing with the drone and the gimbal before everything was installed. But when I went to go put the batteries on a charge, only 2 of the batteries actually came up to 100%. The other ones were down at like 96 or 94% or something. But here I am turning on the camera so that you can see a live camera feed in the shot. Ended up not having any compelling video, of course, from the camera, and I do have to see what's going on with the maybe the SD card. I noticed that there's a couple shots or a couple times in the video that we ended up having some issues with some weird discolorations. So I may have to double check what's going on with my cards. They're certainly not old. They haven't been used very much, but. So here I'm taking off the keepers for the propeller blades on each of the 6 arms so that I can spread the blades out. And I also reached down to check on the stability of the camera. I did end up powering the gimbal on without the drone on. I don't exactly know if there is a right or wrong procedure for when to turn things on in sequence, but it seemed like everything just kind of started handshaking through the CAN bus cable when the drone was on. So here I am actually turning on the remote controller in the drone. You'll hear the audio. And once the system powers up, you saw the camera actually dip down. The other thing that I was trying to get away with, or actually during testing, I found that the gimbal, and this is either a calibration thing or something's a little weird, but I have a high frequency vibration that is typical if there is a, if it's off balance. But I mean, this thing is like really well balanced. I spent the better part of an hour or whatever trying to actually get optimal balance for everything. So I know this thing is about as perfectly balanced as it can be. So this is where I realized that or had not yet realized that, I'm sorry, my landing gear switch was actually in the up position. So even though the landing gear was physically down, once the drone was powered up, it actually tried to retract the landing gear right away. And the little hop, skip, and a jump off to the right should have been my first indication, but I didn't quite know. I thought maybe it was a small gust of wind that came along to kind of push it sideways and it was kind of skipping on the landing gear, and the landing gear was giving a little bit. I didn't yet realize that, you know, as soon as I ended up taking a little bit of weight off the landing gear, it was going to retract itself when it wasn't fully ready to take off. And you saw it hit the ground. It actually hit the gimbal on the ground, not the camera, thankfully. But the bottom of the gimbal did end up actually bouncing on the ground. And then you saw me duck. It was certainly a wincing experience. So, because of the fact that it was relatively windy, I wanted to play it a little bit safe and put the drone down to land with the landing gear down, of course. There were a couple of different times during this flight where I just kind of sat with it, just running at an idle speed. So for those that have the drone, you'll know that when you activate, when you actually arm the drone, all of the motors start up at what I would consider idle speed. So it just takes just a little bit of power to sit there. And I did want to try and bring the batteries down a little bit during this test flight, so that they were down below a threshold where the charger would actually charge them back up again. So that was another part. And I've cut a lot of video out of this. I wasn't outside for very long for fear that I was going to end up having some more problems and possibly damage the camera, crash the drone, or whatever. So I decided to play it a little bit safe. But that is my entire test with the edited video. Like I said, I was outside for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or something like that, 25 minutes. And I just wanted to make a short video to show what happened from the test. I will make some improvements and do better next time.
Thanks. Well, maybe that came through on video.